So I get this question asked about every other stream, and it makes sense as to why. These are two of the most popular characters releasing this year, Draco and Castoria Berserker. And since Draco is not just about a month away and Castoria Berserker is going to be coming out a couple months after that, I thought it would be topical to release a video for this since it does seem to be a question on a lot of players' minds. And for the background gameplay of this video, I'm going to be showing some of the comparisons that I did that I thought would be helpful for a lot of players who just want to see the numbers and the performance of both of these characters. I'm bringing them both with just double Castoria. I'm bringing Atlas Academy just because it's a CE that doesn't provide any extra damage. Both of these characters on my JP account are NP1. They are both Grail to level 100. The only advantage that Draco might have is the fact that she has 500 more attack on the gold foes than Castoria Berserker, but I don't think that really changes my final opinion on this matter. Even the stages that I brought for these characters is going to be against the Bleached Earth Kid Gil and the Bleached Earth version of Caster Liz, which a lot of people that are in the Castoria camp may say, isn't that going to just give Draco the advantage because that's two 7-class servant enemies and they actually are able to be given the power mods that Draco has. But if anything, I think this only helps to prove my point that I do believe Castoria Berserker is better. But let me start getting into this so I can explain it better. Draco is certainly a very powerful servant and one that is very, very fun to use. Her main gimmick is the new typing that she brings into the game, her Beast class typing, and we now know because of Beast Ereshkigal that they're going to have different advantages, and Draco definitely got the better deal in this because she has advantage against the 7 main class servants. That means every Saber, Archer, Lancer, Rider, Caster, Assassin, and Berserker she is effective against, and her NP doubles down on that by giving her a real power mod against each of those classes, meaning she effectively does double damage against all of them, and she can smack them for big mondo damage. But that's not the only thing. She has 2 other power mods that play very nicely with her kit, that being against dragon enemies and Roman enemies. Now you may be asking yourself, ZTL, I can understand the dragon power mod being good because there's quite a few servants that have the dragon trait, and we do fight a couple of dragon bosses, and we do see some dragon enemies in free quest every now and then. I can kind of understand that, but why is the Roman aspect so important? Well, we get a command code during Lilim Harlot, the event where Draco releases, that allows you to give an enemy the Roman trait, effectively meaning that Draco's Roman power mod should also always be up. It could be a little reliant on RNG because you could be really unlucky and get the command card that has the Roman trait on it on your 3rd turn, but even then, you'll still eventually get the power mod up. It is something that you'll either get on your 1st turn, your 2nd turn, or your 3rd turn, just because of how card RNG works in FGO. But in my experience, I'm usually getting it around turns 1 and 2. Very rarely do I ever see it on turn 3. But that is besides the point, because the main selling point for this is that it is a power mod that you can always turn on. Because the Roman trait is kinda rare, they decided to give her a command code that helps her out a little bit, and this all culminates in a servant that can just do a ton of damage. I mean, it is not uncommon to see Draco from anywhere from 500,000 damage to 1,000,000 damage outside of event power mods. And this isn't even inflating her numbers with things like Oberon or getting her to NP5 or giving her a huge max limit broken Black Grail. It's just something she's able to do. She just does a lot of damage. Even with a regular Black Grail, she can start hitting these insane numbers because that's the whole selling point of Draco, is that she just hits really hard. She also has the benefit of being able to crit pretty hard as well, with about 42% total crit damage when you factor in her passive skills. It just leads her to being quite the juggernaut of a character. I mean, even sustainability isn't a huge problem for her because she's regenerating 30% NP every single turn, which does also allow her to be pretty viable when it comes to farming setups, which is good because of how much damage she's able to output. In fact, for Lilim Harlot's own 90++ node, I just used Draco alongside Summer Ibuki. You know, you'd pretty much just get Draco to 100% of her NP, and then she would regenerate at least 60% by the 3rd wave, not including the NP that she's refunding on her own arts single target NP, while also getting all the NP gain from Castoria, because even if you give the arts buffs to Summer Ibuki, the NP gain buff goes to the entire party. And it led to her being able to consistently clear not only the 1st wave, but also the 3rd wave as well, and was even something that I used in the last lottery that we had on JP. She's just a very strong servant, even in these multi-core setups, because of that 30% that she gets every single turn. So why would I say that I think that Castoria Berserker is better? Draco is out here outputting just loads of damage. She's very consistent in the fact that you're always getting 30% NP every single turn, and she can even crit relatively hard. I mean, they even found a way to make her Roman power mod relatively consistent by giving her a command code. And in that fact, it's just the fact that Castoria Berserker is actually more consistent than Draco is. The problem with Draco is not in her kit. The problem is in her typing and how the entire thing that Draco is doing is based around that beast typing. When you are fighting a 7 main class servant, she feels like she's an unstoppable juggernaut, but as soon as you bump into any extra class servant or any extra class enemy, it really does feel like things start to slow down for her, because she's not only losing the effectiveness from her beast typing, but she's also losing her main huge power mod on her NP, which is not something that Castoria Berserker suffers from because she's a Berserker. The only class that she can be stopped by is foreigners effectively. It doesn't matter if you're a main class enemy or if you're an extra class enemy, if you're a ruler, an avenger, a moon cancer even, she's always going to be super effective against them because of her Berserker typing. And it also helps that Castoria is rocking 2 relatively strong power mods in Divinity and Chaotic. So it does mean that even against those main class servants, she's not going to be out damaging Draco over there, but her damage isn't going to be too far behind. Even at the NP1 levels, you can see in the background where she only has her 50% power mod that on occasion is overcharged 2 stages thanks to her own second skill, she is still doing a relative amount of damage, and they're still clearing the same stage at the same rate. Except, of course, for the Liz one, but that is because Draco has all of her power mods up for that one. Not only were we able to make Liz Roman, but she's a dragon, and she's a caster, so she gets all of her power mods. So that would at least be expected for Draco. It would look a little bad if they were still clearing at the same rate on that one, but thankfully she's got that one on lock. Now, that's not the only thing going for Castoria. The other thing is her kit. The fact is, she does have 2 different batteries. One is a 50% battery tied to her first skill and the crit damage, which we all know how strong big 50% batteries are. Having access to immediate NP is always going to be better than having the sustainability when it comes to some of these farming setups. And because the unfortunate truth is farming is like 95% of the game, that's just going to be the preferred way that you want your batteries to be structured. But then on top of that, she has the 20% targetable battery that still gives the NP gain to the entire party like the OG Castoria, but also overcharges their NP stage by 2 levels. This can be used for herself to overcharge her divine and chaotic power mods. You can give this to a different Castoria like the caster one to guarantee at least 3 solemn defenses, which you would assume would be a little awkward with Berserker Castoria because she also gives the entire party 1 hit of solemn defense. But what that allows you to do is put Caster Artoria in the front line where she has her guaranteed 3 hits of solemn defense, then overcharge the Berserker Castoria in the second NP slot while also giving her the attack buff from Caster Artoria's NP, which, mind you, is a pretty substantial attack buff, anywhere from 30 to 50% depending on your NP level. And I think the final nail in the coffin for me, at least when it comes to the consistency of these characters, is the fact that Berserker Castoria provides her own stars. While they both might crit around the same rate, I have consistently ran into scenarios where Draco is going to be doing like a 90% chance, 70% chance, 80% chance, which is not bad, but it's not guaranteed. I mean, the running gag in the FGO community is that 70% chance to crit might as well be 0% because of how often it fails. But with Castoria Berserker, her providing those extra stars does just go that little bit of an extra mile to ensure that those crits are always critting. I mean, it's almost like having a gun with no bullets. You could have 200% crit damage. It could be the largest crit damage in the game, but if you don't have the stars to utilize it, it might as well be an empty gun. And Castoria Berserker always has bullets, whereas Draco sometimes doesn't have enough. Now, all that being said, this is a purely meta analysis of both of these characters as to which one I think is better. They are both top 5 servants that are releasing this year. I mean, Draco, I believe, was in the 5th place position for me, and Caster Berserker Artoria, or whatever you want to call her, was in like the 3rd or 2nd place position. They're both supremely powerful servants, and I'm not gonna deny that Draco is a lot of fun to use. Whenever people ask me on stream, I tell them Castoria is the better servant, but Draco is the more fun servant. Sure, she might be kind of a dead fish whenever you're going up against extra class enemies, but I just don't bring her to those. Obviously, I'm going to bring a servant that more plays to those strengths. It's a weakness of the character, but it's something you can play around. You can just bring somebody else. And then when you are able to reuse Draco, I mean, she just feels like an absolute juggernaut, refunding NP all over the place, hitting the enemy for anywhere from 500,000 to 1,000,000 damage easy, and then kind of being a little tanky herself. I mean, it's just a really fun servant to use, but if I'm recommending a servant for, say, a free-to-play player that can only summon on one, Castoria Berserker is going to be the one that you're going to find more uses for. It's just going to be more useful to have a character who's a Berserker that sure might not be hitting as hard on the main class enemies, but will also be useful when fighting those extra class enemies as well, whereas again, Draco doesn't really do a whole lot when fighting, say, a ruler or an Avenger. And sure, there will always be somebody in the comment section that says, well, I brought my NP5, Grailed 120 Draco to go fight this Avenger boss, and she was able to do blah 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 damage. You can always do that, because thankfully, FGO is a game where you're built around the supports, and you can almost effectively make that argument for any character that you like. It is not hard to make any character look relatively decent, even when they're at a disadvantage. I mean, when Ereshkigal got her Earth Power mod, people were bringing her to go fight Sabers because they just like Ereshkigal and they want to flex and say, look, my Ereshkigal can farm against Saber enemies. Even though that's pretty reliant on the new Earth Power mod she got, and previous to that, she was doing absolute potato damage. Those kind of statements though, and those types of works are really cool to see, but they're not very helpful whenever we're trying to analyze which one of these units is the better unit. In any of these mobile games, there is always going to be a unit that is better than another. That is just a fact of life, and that is just how these games operate. They have to push stronger and stronger characters, but these two I think are relatively balanced in a way where even if you don't summon for Castoria Berserker and you go for Draco because you like her more, it's not like you're going to be completely out of luck. It's not like you're missing out on the original Castoria or Koyenskaya or Oberon, because this game is built around its supports. The supports are what are able to make your box, and as long as you've got those really strong supports, I'm not going to say you can effectively summon for whoever you want, but you can kind of summon for whoever you want. So when it comes to their just use in boss fights, when it comes to general farming, 90++ farming, and even multi-core farming, which is kind of becoming the move, especially for art servants, you're just going to have better luck when using somebody like Caster, Berserker, or Toria over there, but it's not impossible to make Draco work in those cases as well. Again, as a top 5 unit releasing this year, she should be capable of at least that much, and they are both very, very strong at the end of the day. Now, it probably would have been better to also include Yasugi Kenshin, who's going to be releasing around Christmas time later on this year for NA, but because that is quite a long ways away, and both of these characters are just months away from releasing, I mean, by summer we'll have both of them in the game, I thought it'd be more topical, and this does seem to be the comparison that I get asked most of the time. So hopefully now, anytime that somebody asks me on stream, or if you have a friend who's wondering which of these two characters should they summon for, you can direct them to this video, and they'll leave it feeling a bit more informed. Not that you're not unable to ask me these questions during streams, I still will answer those questions. I love talking about the meta and just answering questions for players whenever I can. In fact, that's how I got the idea to do this video, but you at least have a video to point to. If there are any other characters or comparisons you would like me to make for this year that we're going to be getting for 2025, feel free to leave those down in the comment section down below and let me know which one you're going to be summoning for. I mean, I'm personally hoping to get both of them, but with how a unfair maiden the gacha may be at times, that might not be the reality that I live in. So unfortunately, I might not have either one of them by the time that both of them are gone, especially with me really prioritizing Morgan 3 or Ace the Savior when she comes out for Anniversary. Gotta have my priorities where they are. If you have any further questions, there is the Discord link down in the description down below, where we have an Yugioh channel where if I'm not able to answer your question, they have a bunch of people in there where they could also just answer your questions and help you out with whatever you need. If you want access to the super secret saucy channel in the Discord, you can become a patron member, which is also linked down in the description down below, but only do so if you want to go that extra step and do not feel inclined to do so. On a final note, I did mention that this was a topic that I came up with on stream, and the stream schedule has been a little bit wonky for this week, but I am changing up the stream schedule to Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays starting at 6 p.m. Central Time, just for the month of March, just kind of see how it works out. And at least for this first week, it hasn't really been going super well, but I have actually been getting pretty busy this week. It was just kind of a bad time to try to swap up the schedule and also get really busy at the same time. But hopefully a video like this makes up for it. And with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, found it informative, and if you did, a like on the video would be appreciated, and a subscribe to the channel would help me out more than you know, as it's absolutely free. But with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace, light guys.